Samsung started it with the Note 8. LG quickly joined with the V30. Of course, Apple took it to a whole new level with the iPhone X. And now there's rumors that even Google will join with their Pixel line as well. I'm talking about this new trend of ultra-premium flagships, of course. But what are they and why are they so damn expensive? I'm Martin from TechAltar doing a guest episode for Android Authority, and let's find out. So what is an ultra-premium flagship? I mean, just half a year ago, we already thought that flagships were, premium. Like top of the line, it doesn't get any better premium. But apparently, we were wrong. Apple, Samsung, and LG have all chosen a dual flagship strategy. One flagship for the normal mortals, and another ultra-premium one for the more enthusiastic or simply more wealthy ones. And people have been talking about gradually rising prices in the flagship smartphone market since forever, but ultra-premium flagships represent a whole new trend, I think. Not only was the jump in prices much larger than in previous years, I mean, these phones went up from $600 to $800 all the way up to $1,000 now, but device makers also seem to keep their regular flagships around too, signaling that the regular and the ultra-premium flagships were aimed at different types of consumers and should have different value propositions. So what is going on here? In one word, luxury. And before you go duh and start throwing your rotten tomatoes at me, I mean at your screen, because it's too obvious, let me unpack this term first. This handbag from Louis Vuitton costs 995 euros here in Germany. In other words, it is priced exactly like an ultra-premium flagship. Did that shock you? Probably not, given that it is one of the most popular fashion accessories ever made. By now we have all accepted that luxury bags just cost a ton of money. But if a bag costing 1,000 euros didn't shock you at all, then maybe neither should an iPhone or a Galaxy. See, this bag perfectly captures what luxury is about. It's a piece of leather with a few zippers on it that holds your wallet, your phone, and a few other items. It doesn't have any functional benefit over a $20 bag. Okay, maybe the quality of the leather is a little better, the design is a little nicer, or it wouldn't go out of fashion like a regular bag would. But to anyone comparing these two bags on a functional level, the Louis Vuitton seems like a terrible deal. And yet, millions of people buy it. Features, functionality, and performance are what most tech enthusiasts, including me, think make a device valuable. These objective metrics make comparing devices quite straightforward, but they are not the only way to assess the value of a phone. OnePlus adds value to their phones by having a thriving online community. Fairphone adds value by having really good environmental policies and by creating a more sustainable phone. NOKIA adds value by playing with nostalgia and by giving Europeans, like me, a small glimpse of hope of a European company maybe regaining at least some little role in the consumer electronics space. People are willing to pay for these extras, just like they're willing to pay for features. And acknowledging that these things also provide value is the key to understanding ultra-premium flagship prices. The less consumers worry about the basics, the more companies can focus on these extras. And when people can stop caring about the fundamentals completely, the focus shifts nearly entirely on the extras. This is perfectly illustrated by our Louis Vuitton bag. Functionality here is basically not a concern at all. Bags are functionally close to identical. Because of this, consumers can switch their picky, feature-focused brains off, which in turn leaves space for their aspirational, social, or emotional brain to make decisions. People who choose this 1,000 euro bag don't do it because they excessively compare features between it and other bags or watch in-depth reviews. Instead, they buy it for whatever is layered on top of the functionality. Maybe they value that Louis Vuitton has a long history of excellence, that they have nice stores or nice staff, or maybe they just like letting others know that they can afford a 1,000 euro handbag. So how does this apply to phones? Well, just a few years ago, switching that picky and feature-focused brain of yours off could have led to you ending up with a genuinely bad phone. But as the smartphone market has matured, that is becoming increasingly unlikely. Phones now look really similar, and they also have very similar functionality and real-world performance. Years of fierce competition have made sure that there are basically no more bad phones on the market. Sure, we enthusiasts might nitpick, but the average consumer that just wants to scroll through social media feeds and chat with friends, all modern phones above a certain price range will work admirably well. If you think about it, phones in this regard are becoming more and more like bags. And as people have to worry less and less about whether a phone will be able to perform its basic tasks well enough, they will start caring more and more about whatever is layered on top of that core feature set. So companies with a little extra could benefit from this. Just think about Fairphone. Their concept is to use sustainably sourced materials and sustainable processes to build a phone that isn't terrible for the environment, a phone that is repairable, and so on. This, of course, makes their phones much more expensive than comparably spec'd mainstream devices. To end up with a phone that isn't prohibitively expensive, Fairphone has to use mid to low-end specs. 4 years ago, when they launched the Fairphone 1, mid to low-end specs meant terrible performance. 2 years ago, when they launched the Fairphone 2, it meant acceptable performance. If they were to launch the Fairphone 3 with the same strategy today or sometime in the future, performance would probably be just fine. Mid-range specs today are great, and low-end specs are fine too. Because of this, many people who were interested in the mission of Fairphone, but were put off by having a really subpar experience before, could become potential customers. As the worries about the specs disappear, the added value of environmental friendliness becomes more and more attractive. Now, I don't know how many people actually care about the environment enough to choose a phone purely based on this concern, but this trend is pretty unmistakable. Which finally brings us to our ultra-premium flagships. While features might still be somewhat of a concern for low to mid-range phones, they are certainly not an issue on the premium side of things anymore. It is close to impossible to find a flagship phone that doesn't have a great camera, a great screen, and enough processing power to handle anything the average consumer wants to do with ease. Unless you have a very specific need for, say, an S Pen or some other niche feature, the decision you make when buying a flagship mostly comes down to personal preference and the extra stuff these companies are carefully adding on top of their devices. They will have their own special blend of stuff, of course, like emphasizing the fact that they are an anniversary edition, for example. But one aspect that they all seem to push quite hard is simply branding, and through it, luxury. Especially Apple and Samsung have built incredibly strong and premium brands over time, and they are leveraging them hard. They want you to think that owning a $1,000 iPhone X or a Note 8 is a fashion statement the same way that owning a $1,000 Louis Vuitton bag would be. Sure, phones don't last as long as fancy bags, but they are with us 24 hours a day, so they are great at making a statement. They are increasingly not just tools, but objects of desire and prestige. Now, I'm not saying that ultra-premium flagships aren't technically better than some cheaper phones, or that they aren't more expensive to make, but most of the increased price can be explained by the fact that they have become objects of desire and prestige. So, what does this mean for the future of phones? I think we'll go from the industry simply focusing on building the most functional phone possible to having a much larger variety of value propositions. Price-conscious consumers will of course have an endless sea of well-priced options to choose from. There'll always be companies catering to that audience, and they'll have an easier time than ever because making a cheap smartphone that doesn't suck is easier than ever. At the same time, I expect an explosion of phones that focus on the extras. Phones that are good for the environment, phones that care about your privacy, phones that make you feel luxurious, you name it. The smartphone industry will become a little more like that of bags or clothes in general, where you can buy a t-shirt for $5 or another functionally similar one for $500. So I'd like to know what you think about this topic, and also whether you'd like to see similar types of content on Android Authority from me again. Let us know in the comment section below or over at my Twitter account. Also, if you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe to the Android Authority YouTube channel and check out androidauthority.com as well, because I guess we are your source for all things Android.